welcome to our January 13th scheduled meeting of the Zoning Commission. Before I begin our first order of business, I'd like the commissioners and staff to introduce themselves, starting at my extreme right, please.
Jeremy DePrey. Jeremy DePrey.
Ryan Scritorl.
Bruce Chaplinsky.
Peter Del Mastro.
William Cunningham.
Brian Skinner.
Luis Provenzano.
Jim Albert.
Alan Weiner, City Planner.
Monica Holloway, Zoning Enforcement Officer.
And as always, I'd like to acknowledge and thank Nancy King, our secretary, who very quietly records the minutes for this commission. So thank you, everyone. I'd like to remind everyone in attendance at this moment that there is a 10 o'clock curfew, which is now in effect for the commission. Our first order of business is the acceptance of minutes submitted in this package. I'm sorry.
Before we proceed to the acceptance, I have a question on the minutes on page 2 on application 2209, the child daycare center. The 4th paragraph down, or the second paragraph up from the bottom. The last line in the minutes says, the parking proposed is sufficient with 50 employee parking spaces on the west side of the property and 97 required parking spaces. That's a little bit confusing to me because I'm not quite sure. Was the 97 required and there's 50 provided, or I'm a little confused?
I believe.
Because remember we talked about the parking?
I believe that the 50 employees is associated with the daycare, and that that the 50 employee parking spaces are 50 employee parking spaces for the daycare facility, and I believe that there's a total of 97 spaces required for between the daycare and the dwelling units. There's a total of 97. If you'd like, we can
yeah, maybe just
clarify that.
Yeah, because when I first read that, I was confused as it says N97 required parking spaces, and I'm not quite sure what that.
All right, we will clarify that in the final set of minutes.
Okay. Thank you.
Do I have a motion at this point?
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion to accept the meeting minutes for the regular meeting of December 9th with the revisions to the application 2209, please.
Second.
Motion is made second, and roll call vote, please. Commissioner Provenzano.
Yes.
Commissioner Chaplinsky.
Yes.
Commissioner DeMastro.
Yes.
Commissioner Cunningham.
Yes.
And chair votes yes.
Sorry, who seconded that?
Who seconded that? Commissioner Chaplinsky?
Yeah, Chaplinsky.
Commissioner Chaplinsky. Next order of business will be the Zoning Enforcement Officer's report. Monica?
Just to give you a brief summary of what I already submitted on January 5th. Basically, commercial vehicle violations, there were a lot of those last month. There were actually 11. And one person just went around a particular neighborhood and started writing down addresses for recreation vehicles. And they were upset, so I guess they were reporting everyone. So that was a lot. We had 2 fence violations, one for facing the wrong way, and the other one basically was needed repair, was falling apart. We had 8 unregistered vehicle violations, and again, it's, people get upset about something, they call me up and they submit these things. And part of the problem is that they can remain anonymous, so there is no responsibility to who it actually is, but it's basically neighbor disputes. We had 1 violation for building a shed without a permit, 2 sign violations, one for blinking lights, and the other for just numerous liquor signs or cigarette signs. And last but not least, our accessory dwelling units. We have 78 properties in our town, and by January 31st, they have to submit a notarized letter stating that they are actually still the owners, and that they are still operating from they have an accessory dwelling unit within their home, and we have 26 of those so far. So they have until January 31st to submit those. And 427 Stevens Street came before this commission back in, I want to say September, regarding keeping of horses. That was ZBA. Okay, that's it. Sorry. So if you have any concerns, you want to talk to me about something or you want me to address something, please feel free to email me. That's the quickest way to get to me, or you can give me a call.
I have a question, just because I'm curious, and I don't know if my fellow commissioners know this, but what do you do when it is a neighbor dispute and they report commercial vehicle violations are unregistered? Because there's still violations, correct?
Correct.
So you'll still act on that, I'm assuming?
That's correct. So I do have to go and inspect, and if there is a violation, they get a notice of violation. I do the proper necessary steps to go after them. If it is a neighbor dispute and there's no violation, then I just close it out.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Monica. Next order of business will be the receipt of new applications.
Receipt of new applications. We have two. First is application 2212, revision to an approved site plan for a car wash at 2 Dallas Avenue, Assessors Map 48, Lot 94 and 95, BG Business Zone, Flag Car Wash LLC applicant. And application number 2 is application 2213, special permit for place of worship, the church, at 188 West Street, Assessors Map 29, Lot 90, R15/BT, Single Family Residential, Downtown Neighborhood Transition Zone, Iglesia Pentecostal, Poder, Unicom, and Fuego. Applicant.
Mr. Chairman and members of the commission, your next regular meeting is on Wednesday, February 10th, 2016. Your action this evening would be to schedule these two items for public hearing for that evening.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion to schedule applications 2212 and 2213 to our February 10th, 2016 regularly scheduled meeting, please.
Second.
Motion is made and seconded. Roll call vote, please. Commissioner Provenzano?
Yes.
Commissioner Chaplinsky?
Yes.
Commissioner DeMastro?
Yes.
Commissioner Cunningham?
Yes.
Chair votes yes. Okay, February 10th. Okay, next order of business will be our public hearings, and as usual, I'm going to ask Commissioner Provenzano to read the public hearing protocol to the public.
Thank you, Chairman. Okay, public hearing protocol, there are 12 steps. 1, secretary will read the description of the application into the record. 2, the staff will identify for the record any correspondence associated with the application. 3, the applicant and his or her representative will present the application. 4, during the presentation, the commission and its staff may ask the applicant or representatives questions about the application. 5, after the applicant has completed his or her presentation, the hearing will be opened up to any member of the public who wishes to speak about the application. First, those who wish to speak in favor of the application will be heard from, and then those who wish to speak against the application will be heard from next. 6, because the public hearing is being recorded, if you wish to speak, you will need to come to the podium, speak clearly into the microphone, give your name and address for the record, and then make your comments. Your comments should be specific to the application before the commission. Any questions that you want to ask the applicant to answer should be directed to the chair of the commission, who will keep track of all questions and then ask the applicant to respond to each of them later in the public hearing. 7, after everyone from the public who wishes to speak has spoken, the applicant will be given an opportunity to respond to any public comments and to answer the questions that the public has asked. 8, after the applicant has finished with his or her responses, the public will again be given the opportunity to speak. However, in the second round of public participation, only those people who spoke the first time will be allowed to speak again. 9, after the public has finished speaking, staff will be given an opportunity to comment on the application. 10, after the applicant, the public, and the staff have finished speaking, the commission will close the public hearing by a motion, a second, and a vote. However, if the commission feels that it needs additional information, it can vote to continue the public hearing to another meeting. 11, after the public hearing is closed, the voting members of the commission will discuss the application and its merits. And finally, 12, a motion, a second, and a vote of the commission is required for an approval or a denial of the application.
Thank you, Commissioner Provenzano. First public hearing that we're going to hear tonight is application 2208. And I believe the secretary has a letter to read into the minutes.
Yes, I do. This letter is dated January 11th, 2016.
Excuse me, I'm sorry, Mr. Chairman, the item should be identified first, and then the letter read in.
Right.
Application number 2208, change of zone from BD1 downtown business to BG General for Lot 162, west side of North Main Street and south side of North Street. Assessors Map 23, L. Jackson Construction and Development LLC applicant. And this was postponed from 12/9/2015. And we have a letter from Edward H. Smith Jr., attorney, dated January 11th, 2016, regarding application 2208. Dear Mr. Skinner, I am legal representative of L. Jackson Construction and Development LLC. Please consider this as formal notice to withdraw this application. Thank you for consideration. Sincerely, Edward H. Smith Jr.
Alan, do we need a vote on that?
You may want to just, as
Just
a
for the
formality, as
Okay.
a motion and a second to accept the withdrawal.
Just the motion to withdraw. Yep.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion to accept the withdrawal of application 2208, please.
Second.
Motion is made and seconded. Roll call vote, please. Commissioner Provenzano?
Yes.
Commissioner Chaplinsky?
Yes.
Commissioner DeMastro?
Yes.
Commissioner Cunningham?
Yes.
And chair votes yes. Second public hearing, it will be the application 2211.
Application 2211, site plan for addition to existing grocery store at 110 Middle Street, Assessors Map 33, Lot 98A, VHC, Route 72, Corridor Business Zone, Aldi Incorporated, applicant.
I apologize for not bringing my easel this evening, so hopefully you can see my exhibits.
My apologies, I didn't realize not all the lights were on. To orient you, Mr. Chairman and members of the commission, in terms of your packets, this application starts on page 26 of your packets. This is the application form and our locator map. The applicant's representative provided a narrative, a 3-page narrative, which is included here. That's pages 29 through 31, and I think we'll get into some of that. This site plan has been reviewed by staff twice. Our first review was on December 8th, and you'll see that's pages 32 and 33 of your digital packet. The plan was revised and resubmitted. We conducted a second review on December 29th. That's on page 34 of your packet. And the most recent set of plans are pages 35 through 50 of your digital packet. The plans you might want to focus on, page 37 is the demo plan, the demolition plan. Page 38 of the digital packet is the site plan that shows more of the details of what's being proposed. And page 43 of the packet is the landscaping plan. So that's where we're at for now. And one thing I would explain at the very beginning, and again we'll get into it a little bit further, is that the proposed expansion is a permitted use in the zone, and normally a site plan for a use that's permitted by right in the zone would go to the Planning Commission, but this site is in your access management overlay zone, and your regulations require that those plans go to the zoning commission, so that's why you're seeing it, and we'll get into the access management provisions a little bit farther, as you get a little bit farther along, so.
Ready?
For the applicant, yeah.
Okay, thank you. Good evening. For the record, my name is Karen Isherwood. I'm a project manager with BL Companies in Marion, Connecticut. I'm also a licensed professional engineer in the state of Connecticut. I'm here tonight representing the owner, Aldi Inc., in their application for a site plan to allow for an expansion of their existing grocery store located at 110 Middle Street here in Bristol. With me tonight is Mr. Bruno Lorenco, who is the Director of Real Estate for Aldi. He'll be able to answer any questions we have regarding the actual use of the site and the operations of the building as it exists today and hopefully in the future. Basically what we're seeking permission to do is to construct a 13-foot deep building addition, roughly 2,200 square feet along the long face of the building. This is to allow for an expansion of the building, bringing up to approximately 17,800 plus or minus square feet, which is more their typical size building. They're hoping to provide more product to the public. They're also seeking to increase the freezer area. And basically, they're trying to provide some additional improvements to the site. Bristol store is their busiest store in Connecticut. In addition to the building improvements, which, like, as I said, it bumps out approximately 13 feet from the front of the building heading north. There are some existing parking spaces there, so we had to make some additional modifications to the parking layout and driveway aisles to accommodate the building addition. Even with that, your regulations require one space for every 250 square feet of building. Therefore, the zoning regulations require 71 total spaces on the site. Even after all of the modifications are achieved, we will be providing in excess a total of 87 parking spaces for pedestrians. In addition, we're proposing a 5-foot wide crosswalk, hatched crosswalk, which goes from the farthest parking spot in the front all the way to the new main entrance of the building, safe passage for pedestrians and customers. We are going to be making some slight modifications to 2 existing landscaped islands within the site to further enhance the traffic movement within the site, and we're also introducing one moon-shaped, I'd say, island, again, in the area where we're directing traffic around the entrance of the building. As such, we are proposing minimal landscaping improvements to the site. We're going to be proposing some honey locust trees within those islands. Additional improvements that they're looking to do for the site, basically they're looking to remodel this building. As I said, it's their busiest store in Connecticut. The roof needs to be replaced. They're going to be doing that. With that, they're looking to upgrade the mechanicals, their HVAC units, and get some more efficient units. And we're going to be upgrading the lighting on the site and providing some LED fixtures. As Mr. Weiner had mentioned, over the past month, we've been working closely with town staff, and we've prepared revised plans and submitted them to address many of their comments. So that's it in a nutshell. I'm here to answer any questions you may have regarding the site. Thank you.
Pretty cut and dry. Questions? Any questions, anyone?
Maybe the only thing I can say is I know that this is and we'll probably get into it later, being on this corner, it sometimes is, I've noticed it's a cut through for people coming down Mountain Road, and there's traffic backed up on Middle Street, so people cut through the parking lot to get through. Have you addressed that in any way? I mean, like you said, I see where you've done some things with the islands to try and direct the traffic a little better within the site, but have you considered possibly doing anything to prevent people from cutting through? Or have you found that to be a problem, I guess?
We've been there since.
You gotta speak to the microphone.
Bruno Lorenco from Aldi. We've been there since 1997. We haven't seen that as a problem. It's something that's been brought up to our attention. We've replaced some signs to accommodate sort of the traffic and what we're allowed to do and not allowed to do on that mountain view street. So, but no, it has not been a concern that's been voiced to me.
Okay, thank you.
I think by their addition with the crosswalk, that gives it some sort of a boundary where they're not going to be flying through there as what they used to kind of do, was use it as a pass-through, so.
Anyone else before we open it to the public? All right, this time what we'll do is we're going to open the application up to the public. Anyone who wishes to speak in favor of the application, we'd ask you to come up to the podium, give your name and address for the record, please. We will then ask anyone who was against the application to come up and do likewise. We'll give the applicant a chance to answer those questions, and then we'll do a second round if need be. So at this point, is there anyone who would like to come up and speak in favor of the application? Please come up to the podium at this time. Barring none, is there anyone who would like to speak against the application? Would you please come up to the podium? Okay, Alan, how about anything from you that you need to?
Sure. As I noted at the outset, staff has seen this proposal twice, and as you can see from the second round of staff comments, much of what's left is what we would probably consider housekeeping matters. I think the biggest issue, or issue in terms of not being fully resolved, is the lighting plan. That needs to be clarified. Ms. Isherwood and I have had a conversation about that, and it's something that I think we will address at staff level on the next go-around. And she may want to speak to that this evening in terms of what's being proposed. It's my understanding that the existing lights are going to be upgraded, but there's no additional lighting that's being proposed within the parking lot. Do you want to speak to that so we can?
Yes, there are two existing poles on the site. One is a quad unit, one is a triple unit, and there was some confusion. The lighting representative that I sent the plans to got a little excited, started adding poles. I wasn't aware of that, it was brought to my attention, so no, we are maintaining, the goal was to take the existing two poles in the site and replace the light fixtures with LED fixtures. We're also going to be proposing some building-mounted sconces and the like, and that's going to be included on the plan as well.
Okay. So again, that has to be addressed, but it appears that BL Companies has it well in hand. Another issue that has come up, but I believe we want to get it on the table. I don't think it's that big of an issue. If you look at the site plan and kind of focus in on the parking lot, the revised parking lot in front of the building where the crosswalk is coming down, you'll notice that there is a whole series of, at least on the plan you have in front of you, a whole series of wheel stops. And if you look at those parking spaces, because of the limitations of the size of the site and the size of the addition, what was once, or what is now, 2 rows of parking spaces that abut one another is going to be 1 row of parking spaces, on either side of which is going to be an access aisle. There'll be the existing access aisle to below it, if you will, out towards Mountain Road, and there'll be a new access aisle between the parking spaces and the building. And that access aisle is how the trucks are going to access the loading dock on the far side of the building. What that means is that the parking spaces that are there, that are going to be restriped, could be accessible from either direction. And it is the staff's contention, and I think the applicant's design team agrees, and I think the applicant agrees, that that's a potentially dangerous situation. If people can get into parking spaces from 2 different directions, it's an accident waiting to happen. So what we've asked them to do is to pick a side that you want the cars to come in from, and provide some kind of wheel stop that will prevent people from accessing the spaces from the other access aisle. They've chosen to maintain the Mountain Road side access aisle as the access aisle in, therefore the The wheel stops that are shown on the plan are basically between the parking spaces and the building. The original plan that we saw during our first review showed a continuous curb instead of wheel stops. From my standpoint, I was okay with wheel stops. The applicant initially proposed curbing, and there would be a break in the curbing where the crosswalk goes through, but otherwise it was going to be a continuous curb. Engineering's comment during its first review, and if you look on the first set of staff comments, they recommended, well, they didn't require it, they recommended that the concrete curb that was proposed be scrapped in favor of wheel stops, and that's what you see on the plan before you. It is my understanding, and again, the applicant's design folks can address this, it is my understanding that the applicant would like to go back to a continuous curb, but I will leave it to Ms. Isherwood to address that.
No problem, sorry, I neglected to say this. 6 of one, half a dozen of another. It's a 6-inch barrier to prevent vehicles from going across. As Mr. Weiner had mentioned, we went in with an initial 6-inch high, straight, continuous concrete curb. We changed it, we felt it wasn't an issue. We decided to go back because we are concerned it would be more of a maintenance issue. With all this plowing of snow, it appeared that would be more easily ripped out, and there's going to be more of a hazard, tripping hazard concern. So we sought to go back to our original 6-inch concrete curb. I discussed with the town planner. He indicated that he was not against it. He wants us to provide some kind of a barrier. I further communicated with the town engineer. He did call me back today, as did the assistant engineer. I wanted to discuss it with them and see what their concerns were. And like me, the only concern they had was they thought it was going to be more of a maintenance issue the other way. They said, really? They have no objections. They're concerned, and they realize that this is a private site and it's going to be maintained by Aldi, and it's their expense and their costs, and they had no objections to us going back to a 6-inch concrete curb. And that's what we would like to do.
So that's a site, there is no specific regulation that requires one versus another. So unless the commission has a strong feeling one way or the other, if the applicant wants a continuous concrete curb with the break for the crosswalk, they can certainly show that on the next set of drawings, and we'll work with them to make sure that issue is resolved. The one thing I would ask, I think when it was on there initially, I'd ask for a detail of it, so when the plan is revised, again, if you could provide that detail so that we can see exactly what that's going to look like. The last issue, and I'm going to spend just a little bit of time because the commission doesn't often see projects in the access management overlay zone, but this is one that is in that zone, and as I indicated at the beginning of my remarks, that's the reason that this project is before you. So if you have your zoning regulations handy, if you look at pages 87 through 90, these are the provisions of the zoning regulations that address the issue of access management. And the whole purpose behind access management, among other things, is to manage the number, location, and design of driveways in these access management areas. And if you look on the zoning map, this piece of property is in the access management overlay zone, and because of what's being proposed, which is an addition more than 1,000 square feet, which is subsection F, you can get them at each of the driveways. Again, the idea is if you're sitting at the exit driveway and you're looking left, you're looking right, you know, how far from your car can you see? It's, in this instance, because both driveway exits are right turn only, that's really kind of the left side is really sort of the operative distance that we're looking at. But the two driveways certainly appear to meet the intent of your regulation. The third issue associated with driveways is when they're on a corner lot such as this, and again, if you look at page 88 of your regulations, the standard is that the driveway shall be located as far as possible from the adjoining street intersection based upon the following standards. And the very first standard says if the adjoining street intersection is signalized, the driveways have to be at least 150 feet from the intersection, and it's measured between the stop bar at the light and the center line, and the driveway itself. That's measured on the center line. And if you look at one of the drawings, it shows at both legs of the intersection for both driveways, the distances exceed 150 feet. These are existing driveways, and as a result, they get 4 points on your access management scoring system. So right away, just given where the driveways are sitting right now, they exceed the regulation for separation distance between the driveway and the street intersection. So that's part of where they start. We then move on to the access management scoring system in greater detail. We look at the site and we make a determination whether or not the driveways that are in existence are consistent with your access management requirements in the scoring system. And so we evaluate the two driveways, and in this instance, they're not proposing to make any changes to the existing driveways, but your regulations allow you to take account of the fact that these are existing driveways. So they started with 4 points. And if you look at the chart on page 89, you will see that depending on what techniques are applied to this project, they get varying numbers of points. So in this instance, and I think this is also referenced in the applicant's narrative that accompanied the application. So there's a regulation, or there's an opportunity to get 3 points for a separation of more than 50 feet between the driveway on your lot and the driveway on the next lot. In this instance, the driveway at the self-storage area, which is the next lot over, is beyond the 50 feet separation that's required between that driveway and this driveway, so they pick up 3 more points. They pick up 2 more points because some of the parking that is accessible off the access drive, I think it's the Middle Street access drive, the requirement is if it's set back more than 30 feet from the street before you get to the first space, you can pick up 2 points, and that's the case. And again, if you look at the map, there's a row of parking on the very south side of this property. It's existing parking to an existing driveway, but it's set back well past, it's probably 50, 60 feet back before you get to that first space. They pick up 2 points. And then they pick up 2 more points because the Mountain Road driveway is aligned with the driveway for the CVS on the opposite side. It's not a perfect alignment. They both have, I think both driveways are right in and right out, but they line up about as close as you could possibly get them, and then the likelihood of there being conflicts between people leaving each of the 2 driveways is pretty minimal, it's probably non-existent. So they pick up 2 more points there. So based on our review and analysis of the existing driveways, we calculated that this project scores 11 points, 4, 3, 2, and 2. So what do we do with the 11 points? So if you go to page 90 of the regulation, it's good we probably don't do this that often. And you look at subsection B3, well, if you look at subsection B, depending upon the total number of access management points scored by a project, the Commission shall or may require the applicant to submit additional traffic impact information, and if so required, shall specify the type of information to be submitted. So they scored more than 10 points, so you may require, so it's completely at your discretion, that they provide a site access analysis. So if you feel, for whatever reason, that you have concerns about these driveways or turning movements in or out, you could ask them to provide you with additional information associated with traffic movement into and out of the site. But it's completely discretionary. You're not required, given that they've scored 11 points, you're not required to make them do anything further in terms of information. Our sense of this is that these are existing driveways, you're at a signalized intersection. We're not aware of any major traffic problems involving this site. There may be, it's a busy intersection, so there are probably a lot of vehicles that stack up at the intersection. But we're not aware that the design of the driveways of this site have created any kind of traffic problems that would warrant further review, but that's your decision. So with that, what's left is, regardless of how you decide to address that, as you can see, what's left is mostly housekeeping. If the commission is otherwise comfortable with what you see before you and don't feel that you need any additional traffic information, you may want to act on this application this evening. If you do so, we would suggest your 2 standard stipulations, that the remaining staff comments have to be addressed before the plan is signed off, and that before they can get a certificate of occupancy to use the addition, all the site work either has to be done or bonded if it isn't, or if there are portions that aren't done, that would have to be bonded. So apologies for taking up a lot of your time. Be glad to answer any questions that you have on this.
Commissioners, questions, or do you think we're ready to close?
I think I'm ready to close. It looks like it meets all the requirements under the access management. It's been there, it's only an addition. Driveways, I don't think we've ever had any problems with, nor I'm aware of them. And the site looks like it's a good place and it's a good review, and the new addition looks like it's well constructed. So I think we can close.
I'll entertain a motion to close the application.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion to close the public hearing on application 2211, please.
Second.
Motion is made and seconded. Roll call vote, please. Commissioner Provenzano?
Yes.
Commissioner Chaplinsky?
Yes.
Commissioner DeMastro?
Yes.
Commissioner Cunningham?
Yes.
And chair votes yes.
Mr. Chairman, does the commission have any preference as to whether it's wheel stops or curbing, or does that make a difference to anybody one way or the other? Okay, so if the applicant...
It doesn't to me.
It doesn't really.
Okay. So if the applicant is comfortable with a full curb, that's what would be on the final plan.
Yes.
Okay. In terms of access management, you're satisfied that...
Yeah, I'm glad, Alan, you took the time to walk us through that, because it is a very, very busy intersection, and we have a lot of traffic accidents there, and knowing that it meets these requirements, puts my mind at ease that these driveways probably aren't contributing to it, and it's just the heavy traffic volume of the area.
Yeah.
So that was very helpful, to me,
Good.
that we're really satisfactory.
And I think that's the value of the access management overlay zone, is that it gives you that opportunity to revisit. When someone comes in with a project such as this, it gives you the opportunity to revisit traffic movements into and out of the site. And there are going to be locations where the driveway is causing a problem. Our observation was that these driveways appear to function. The state limits them, as I noted earlier. The Mountain Road one is right in, right out only. The Middle Street one is the exit is a right out only. So our observation was that the driveways have functioned about as well as they can at a site like this.
Thank you. That's good to know.
Comments? Anyone? Ready to go? Okay. I'll entertain a motion for the application then.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion to approve application 2211, site plan for an addition to the grocery store at 110 Middle Street, with the following stipulations. 1, the site plan shall not be signed off until all remaining staff comments have been addressed and the plan revised accordingly. And 2, All site improvements which have not been satisfactorily completed by the time a certificate of occupancy is applied for shall be bonded in accordance with Section 11A16 of the zoning regulations. The performance bond shall be posted by the applicant with the city before the certificate of occupancy is issued.
Do I have a second?
Second?
Motion is made and seconded. Roll call vote, please. Commissioner Provenzano?
Yes.
Commissioner Chaplinsky?
Yes.
Commissioner DeMastro?
Yes.
Commissioner Cunningham?
Yes.
And chair votes yes. Congratulations, thank you.